Hello everyone and welcome once again to The View from the Midwest. It's time for another post-match edition for St. Louis FC, and if you can't tell by my expression or maybe even the tone in my voice, St. Louis FC finally picked up 3 points, and not only 3 points but 3 points at home. Only the second time all season that they have gotten a victory on home turf in the regular season. The fourth time overall this season, obviously 2 cup wins before they went to play Kansas City in Sporting Park, 2 wins at home in the regular season, and it couldn't come at a better time because St. Louis FC right now is really pressed to try to make the playoffs. It's a grim perspective, but it's not impossible, and tonight was a big reason why it is still possible, because as I've been saying for weeks, you have to get points in just about every single game that you have left, and you need 3 points in as many games as possible. St. Louis FC in the past has managed to pull defeats when it looked like they were on the verge of getting draws. They've managed to get draws when they were on the verge of getting wins. It seemed like the same story was going to play out here tonight in this epic game, really, in terms of the overall grand scheme of things against the Charleston Battery. Charleston coming in with one of the better records in the league, one of the best records in the Eastern Conference, and they managed to score early and often, taking a 2-0 lead in the first 17 minutes of the game. St. Louis FC just came out. They didn't look too bad in the first couple minutes, but then all of a sudden, I don't know if they were pushing numbers forward, if they thought that they could capitalize on something that they had seen in the Charleston defense, but all of a sudden you had a 4-on-1, and Sam Fink, unfortunately for him, the poor guy, was left out on an island. Now I heard some people in the sections around me say, well, he should have done this, he should have done that. Sam Fink basically did what he needed to do. You could make a case that he needed to challenge the initial shooter who crossed the ball maybe a little bit more. But from a goalkeeper's perspective, whether you're playing goalie in hockey or whether you're playing keeper in soccer, the Fink basically did what he needed to do in that situation. He got back as quickly as he possibly could. He wanted to get some help, obviously. There were a couple people who came in real late, and I don't know. I don't know if the rest of the defenders thought that there maybe should have been an offside call or what the deal was, but it seemed like everybody else was extremely slow getting back, and I said Fink was left out on an island, 2 or 3 on 1. Maybe even 4-on-1, depending on how many attackers you want to include in that attack. But ultimately, Fink did basically all he could do. That's what, as a goalkeeper, you want your defender to do, to back up as quickly as possible, take away as much of the pass as you can, leave the shot to the goalkeeper, because they would rather face the shot that they know is coming from the attacker as opposed to the cross that eventually came. Unfortunately, it was just a pinpoint pass just over the head of Fink, and that's a pretty tall feat, no pun intended, because Fink does have a decent amount of height on him. But then the penalty kick came, and it just looked like it was just going to be another sour night. It really had kind of a reminiscent feel of that match earlier in the season against New York Red Bulls 2 at home, to where they lost, I believe, 4-1 or 4-2, and the wheels just really kind of came off because they did attempt to take the game to New York, and that just left so many holes open. But all credit to St. Louis. They got themselves in advantageous positions. They gave themselves a chance. They got that initial penalty kick goal. Looking at it on the replay, I'd like to watch it again a second time, because sometimes you don't get the best view. You don't know when the replays are coming. But it did look like it may have been a bit of a lucky call drawn by Jameel Hardware. I mean, if you can get the ref to make a decision, that's what attackers are taught to do now. But it did look like he kind of went down a little bit after maybe the contact had happened. But That's the way the game is played now, whether you like it, whether you don't. Ultimately, St. Louis got that first penalty kick goal. They draw another one. And unfortunately, Ambersley, I'm not going to pick on him too much because the shot itself was reasonably good. He tried to put it to his right, the goalkeeper's left, picking the opposite side that he did on the first attempt. But from a goalkeeper's perspective, shooters overthink these things so much. Just shoot the ball. Just shoot it. You can pick the same side. The goalkeepers are the ones that are overthinking things because they have to try to decide where you're going when you already know where you're going. And shooters seem to kind of overthink things too much. And it looked like it was going to be a situation to where instead of having a simple draw to where it would have been 2-2 for the majority of the game, it looked like St. Louis was going to pull a loss out of the jaws of equality, for lack of a better term. But all credit goes to this team. There's still problems within this squad. They don't have this cohesiveness that you need to be successful, even at this level, for whatever reason. And I'm kind of nitpicking here because you can only say so much negative things when the team wins. But I've come to the conclusion that they're not in peak fitness. And I respect the coaching staff. They're all professionals. They're all doing the best they can. They're all doing what they think is going to produce results on the field. But I put that on the coaching staff because I know that the players are out there training hard. I know that they're doing just about everything that's asked of them. But for whatever reason, they just look gassed a lot of times towards the end of games. And I don't know what their conditioning program is during the season. Maybe they're trying to take it a little bit easier here lately because they have so many red cards and suspensions and injuries, and they're trying to save the legs a little bit. But for whatever reason, it's not really working. And I think that that's something that's going to have to be looked at come the off-season program. But look, back to the game. St. Louis FC managed to really put in that full 90 minutes, which is something that we've been asking as fans. Just everybody as a cohesive unit, put in that full 90 minutes and good things can happen because you can see it individually. All these players are talented. There is nobody out there that you can sit there and point a finger at and say, oh, well, there's no reason that he is getting paid to play this game because they're not worthy of it. All of them are talented individuals. They just have not been able to put it together consistently as a unit. Finally, they got enough things going their way, and they kept plugging away. They didn't look great defensively. The midfield was a shambles in terms of possession a lot of times in the latter stages of the game, but they kept doing enough good things to put themselves in advantageous positions. They drew the penalty earlier in the game. They drew the penalty that they missed. They drew a bunch of fouls to where they had chance after chance of putting some balls in. Finally, a good ball over the top. Sam Fink made up for what some people will call his mistake at the back. I say it's basically just poetic justice in that he was left all by himself on that goal. There was nothing that he could have done. He makes up for everybody else's mistakes and ties up the game. And then Aaron Horton with the first goal of his St. Louis FC career. Maybe we'll see some more. At this point in the season, I understand that you want to give more playing time to the people who have already been there, but Aaron Horton has spent time in the Columbus Crew system. He's played at the MLS level. Not pointing out fingers and picking out names, but if Brian Gall can get as much playing time as he gets, simply because of the fact that he's basically been in the LA Galaxy system, he hasn't produced necessarily the numbers that he is capable of, then I don't understand why Aaron Horton might not get more playing time coming here forward. That's up to the coaching staff again. But Aaron Horton comes in, pulls off a big goal. St. Louis FC gets huge 3 points, and I mean the crowd goes wild. It wasn't a sellout crowd, but it's a Thursday night game after the team just played over the weekend, and then I mean the good thing is they get the 3 points. They're carrying on momentum. They've got a game on Saturday. That's a horrible schedule. I don't know who came up with it. Maybe it's Sunday, but regardless, That's not enough time to travel, get any kind of practice time in, and then play a game against basically the best team in the conference. So things are still in front of St. Louis, but that's all you can ask for. They still have chance. They still have opportunities. Now they just need to kind of build on this. That is the mark of a quality team. Even if you miss the playoffs, that is the mark of a quality team, is continuing to build on success. Learn from winning and put it into the next contest. And I hope that we will see this same kind of effort for a full 90 minutes every single time going forward. As fans, let's revel in this. We haven't had it very often at the park, but now we have experienced a win here late in the season. And again, hopefully St. Louis FC can continue to build on that. And maybe we'll see postseason football. We'll have to wait and see. Still a lot of games left before all that is decided. That is the View from the Midwest post-match edition. What are your views on the game that we saw tonight? Who did you think was the man of the match? And leave us a comment, rate, and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up, and we'll keep these on rolling. But until the next time, I'll see you then.